Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Conversation Piece, episode 4.5, I think. That's what I wrote down as the title of this file, so I'm going to call it 4.5 because I'm pretty sure that's what the episode number is. Very excited to be here with you. I am Patrick Armstrong, your host for the podcast, and this is the show where I talk to my friends and other interesting people about really whatever's on their minds, whatever kind of topics they want to talk about, a lot of adoption-related stuff, but they can touch on anything. And on the 15th, I usually release a 0.5 episode, an episode that bridges the gap between the month previous and the month upcoming when I release my regular episodes. But you'll realize that this is coming to you on the 23rd if you're listening to it on the day that it's released, or if you're here on the Instagram Live with us. And that is because I've been very busy. I'm going to chat about that a little bit here in a second. But that's how the show goes. On the 1st, I usually release a new episode that coincides with my newsletter. Generally, I have an interview going on those episodes. Last month, I did not, because if you want to find out, you can listen to that episode. But this month, I will, or I should. I'm really excited about the episode that is going to be coming up in February. It's a good surprise. So, I'm very excited for that. I don't know what I'm saying. But before I jump into everything, I do just want to address that this is coming on the heels of Lunar New Year and the tragedy, the shooting that happened in Monterey Park in California. The reason at the top I said I may not be long is because I'm still processing through that, as I know many of us are in the community. And for everyone that's had to just kind of move forward in their day and in their lives post this tragedy, I just want to say that you have community here, that if you have to take that time, you have to take that time, and that people should be willing to give you that time if you need it. So know that if you're struggling, if you're feeling any type of way, that you should be able to ask for that peace, that space, and you should be able to receive it, and that you have community with other folks here who can resonate with that feeling, with that need, if you need it. And last but not least, my heart is with that community of Monterey Park and with all of our Asian American community. It feels like it's just a continuous string of traumas, and not just for us, for just any community that feels or has been marginalized by white supremacy in the entirety of existence. It feels like for whatever reason, it just doesn't stop. And maybe it's just because we're hearing and seeing about it and people are actually talking about these things happening, as opposed to they haven't always been happening, or they're happening at an increased rate, which statistics would say that they are. But, I feel like we're all kind of more aware of what's going on, and I think that's really important. But it's a lot, and it's a lot to have to continue to deal with and unpack and process as you try and go about your daily routine. So just wanting to affirm you in whatever you're feeling right now, and especially as for many of us coming out of or coming into Lunar New Year and really celebrating the new year for the first time, it's a heavy way to start, and you're not alone in that. So let me take a sip of my coffee here as we continue on. So if you're joining me here today, I appreciate you. I appreciate the community that you give me and that you bring me, and hoping that we can send some collective support towards that community as well. What was I even going to talk about? Oh, yeah. I've been pretty busy this past month. Mid-January, I went out to LA for a little bit for a couple things to hang out with Jerry Wan. And last week, I had the privilege and honor of being on the road again as we were in Boston and Washington, D.C. for the 2023 Dear Asian Americans Makers Markets. Really excited to be a part of this. these events, as you know, if you don't know, for a quick recap, in May of 2022 is when I entered into my acceptance phase, and that happened specifically at one of these events. Long story short, it was the first week of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and I was on the road with Jerry, and we ended up the last stop being in New York City, and he was hosting, or Dear Asian Americans, and he were hosting the first night market event in partnership with The Wing, a co-working space. And on the road, he asked me if I wanted to MC that, and I was like, sure. And when in the middle of just kind of announcing and welcoming people to the event, I felt like the shame. I was relaying my story a little bit, just like, I'm a adoptee, I never find myself in these spaces before. It's really amazing to be here. And I could just feel kind of the burden of shame and guilt and this rejection of identity and self-loathing that I had internalized kind of leave my body for the first time. And it felt really good. And from that point on, it's been like, yes, full-on acceptance, still learning, still growing, still doing those things, but feeling very, very much more confident in who I am, in my own skin, in my body, feeling comfortable with the person that I've become and who I was in the past. So I feel like that was really important. And those night markets those ones particularly hold a very special place in my heart because they mark a very prominent shift from the reclamation phase that I had been operating in since June of 2020 to this phase of acceptance, this next step in my journey. And so this past week, we were doing the 2023 versions of these, and Jerry kindly asked me if I would be able and willing to help on these again in an MC capacity, but also helping on the back end with a little bit more responsibility. And I was able to do that, and it was really great. Boston and DC were two cities that we had on our list from last year, and the sponsors this year were wanting to not only highlight the Asian American dreamer and focus on people who are stepping out of maybe those roles that we expect Asian Americans or Asian folks to fall into, the engineer, the lawyer, the doctor, whatever that might be. And so it was really great. And they also wanted to get into cities and highlight communities that don't necessarily see these types of events, that don't necessarily always get the opportunities to recognize or support or even be aware of Asian American businesses and entrepreneurs and small business owners outside of their communities who are operating on either national or even local levels. And so these makers markets specifically were about bringing these types of things to these types of the creators, these makers, these small businesses to communities that don't always have those events. And personally, I feel like it went very well in both cities. Boston showed out. It was a great way to kick it off. We did a 4 to 7 time slot, which was an interesting catch people when they're leaving work, catch people as they're coming into the cities to go out to dinner and things like that. And we were in partnership venue-wise with WeWork, and honestly, it couldn't have worked out any better, in my opinion. I felt like the community and the energy was really palpable. And I felt like I had a number, long story short, TLDR, I had a lot of people come up at the end of the night and say, these are things that we don't have very often. And we need more of this in Boston. And the WeWork people wanted us to come back and have an event the next week. So, it just shows how important being able to facilitate spaces for community like these are, not only for ourselves, but for people outside of our communities to be able to engage in our cultures. We had a mix of not just East Asian, but South and Southeast Asian representation from our vendor side as well. And it was really great to be able to bring, as much of the different cultures and communities that make up the Asian diaspora, the Asian American diaspora, together to be able to highlight them. And then, so we did that on Wednesday in Boston. And then on Friday, we were in DC to do the same thing there. And I felt like the energy and the excitement that was generated in Boston was carried over directly to what we were doing in DC. I felt like the energy in DC was really, really strong. And the crowd turned up, the community turned up, and they showed out for the different Asian American vendors and small businesses that we had join us, and it was really it was amazing. I think especially in hindsight now with what has happened in Monterey Park, I think personally for me it was great to be able to engage in community in that way and see just how important it was for all of us, because it acted kind of as a buffer, an emotional buffer for this latest tragedy, for myself personally, and also just reaffirmed the necessity of community spaces like that. And the reason why we need to have those spaces, not only for us to see us doing it, see businesses for us, by us, and succeeding and thriving, but also for people outside of our community to be able to see us thriving and succeeding in that way. Because in order to just dispel this type of hate that fuels these types of actions that lead to things like Monterey Park, we have to be able to build this empathy for other communities and within our own communities as much and as often as possible, because we are trying to dispel and disrupt these narratives that have generated and continue to push and generate hate. And I don't know. I think that's just, for personally, that's just where I feel like we need to be focused at, and what we need to be doing in our actions, or one of the things that we can do with our actions to help to push back against this. There's obviously a lot of different policy things and a lot of, mindset shifting that needs to occur for these things to happen. And, treating people with empathy or leaning into radical empathy and love is definitely one step. It's not the only thing that needs to be done. And there are a lot of people here and on other platforms that are leading the way in that aspect. So if you follow me here, you know that I try to share people. And if you hop in the room here, you can see a number of people that do those things as well. So that was last week. Yeah, I don't know. I just, yeah, sorry. It's a lot. So, going forward, the rest of this month is about continuing to build what I've been trying to build here, for my own individual business, and just continuing to find ways to facilitate that community. For my Asian adoptee people in the room right now who are watching or who may be listening to this post-record, I am going to be back in the rooms at some point. Just been a lot of things, and I really appreciate the folks in the group who have been continuing to hold space for each other, continuing to invite new people in, continuing to expand and grow our community. I think one of the things that I'm proud of the group is just to see that continue forward, and to know that it's just these reaffirmations of the importance of community. I think, especially in the face of tragedy. I think that's why I'm finding myself in these pauses, trying to figure out how I want to say these things, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's just more important than ever that we find ourselves in communal spaces. And if you listen to the most recent episode of the John Chi Show, we talk about being intentional about putting ourselves trying to find ourselves in more Korean spaces. Myself, KJ, and Nathan, that was one of the conversations we had in this most recent episode. And, that's something that I really want to be mindful and intentional of, especially for myself and especially in my local community, because we just see these things we just see tragic things happen time and time again in spaces where we should not see these things occur. In dance studios, in supermarkets, on the bus, it's not safe, unfortunately. I wish I could say it was safe to just go out and live your life. But for the majority of people who operate and live and exist in this world, it's not safe. It's not safe to just go out and just be, unfortunately. And it sucks. It really sucks. So, every opportunity that we have to be in community, to model what it's like to thrive and succeed and find it in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of pain, in the midst of intense grief, I think it's really important. Because you never know who might be watching, who might be joining, who resonates with what you say, with what you share, with the action that you took, that prompts them to be like, oh, maybe I should be doing this, or oh, I can help in this way, or oh, my voice does matter. My story is important, and I want to learn how to share that. And then even by those unspoken things that lead to community, that lead to people being willing and able to and believing that those things are important, that they are important, matter. Because in those actions, in through that empathy, we move forward in a better way, I think. I hope. And so, yeah. Next month, I am super excited about the episode that I have coming up. It is, I don't really want to spoil it. And I don't want to spoil it because I'm not sure if it's even going to happen in the capacity that I hope it does. I'm about to send that message today to get the scheduling done. So if you're on here watching this, be on the lookout for your inbox or in your inbox. Really excited about that. Really excited about continuing to push forward in just finding ways to build and facilitate community. So many of you I've connected with have incredible ideas on how we go about doing this, and I'm really excited to follow along and see how those things continue to play out. That's very, very exciting to me. Seeing my friends, seeing the community just build on their own. Or build in our individual pillars, I think is really, really incredible. And again, just reaffirms the importance of community and the importance of the differences that we bring, the unique perspectives that we bring to everything that we do. Very excited about that. Seeing one friend who may or may not still be in the room, who has shared some very incredible news. So really excited about that when they are able to publicly share that news. Weird non-spoilers, I guess, but spoilers for the future. What else? Let's see. I don't know. I guess the only thing that I have left is just to say that you're not out here by yourself. No matter where you are or what you're feeling at this time, you have community with someone somewhere. And I want to say that I can totally resonate with the fact that you feel like you don't have that. I know that feeling very, very well. Especially in the face of tragedy, when it feels like you're on an island and there is no way in hell that you're going to be able to find someone else, even within swimming distance of your island, let alone willing to come up on the island with you and share that space. But it's out there. There's people out there for that. There's people out there for you, more importantly. And when you find those people, I hope that it's what you need it to be. Because I know in any journey, in any identity journey, in any moving through beyond with trauma, tragedy, pain, it can be extremely lonely and it can be extremely isolating to do that. Because your experience is so singular, because it's so specific to yourself. And that's the beautiful thing about humanity, is that we all enjoy and live and walk our own individual distinct paths. And we also cross over with other people's individual, distinct, unique paths. And in those ways that we intersect with each other, in the ways that our own identities, the multiple identities that we carry, intersect with each other, in those moments of intersection, we can find real community. We can find peace. We can find freedom, I think. And it's how we expand out of that. And then we hopefully turn those things on the systemic corruption within all of our institutions and purge that of that, whether that's abolition, whether that's complete teardown and reconstruction, whatever that looks like. That's where that starts. And so people are here. You're not alone. You're not alone in this, and people are here to walk with you. And if it's not me, it's somebody. And so that's all I have for today. This is actually how I was originally intending to do these shorter episodes. And then we started to do the live stuff, which I'm really enjoying. And I'm deciding that like 50 minutes is probably way too long for for the episodes by myself. And that's the advice I've been giving other podcasters. Check that time limit. You know, our attention spans are getting shorter. And it helps with the short form content that you want to create and when you market your podcast. So that was the advice corner. And yeah, really excited about the episode coming out next week, or actually it will be coming out. No. Yes? I don't know. I'll figure it out. Really excited about the next episode. Can't wait for y'all to hear that. Really excited about what we have coming up as community, and also holding space and grieving with my fellow Asian American community members, specifically sending my heart out to Monterey Park and the community there, and hoping that we can continue to move forward towards peace, towards happiness, towards healthiness, towards safety as we go forward. If you want to follow me and check me out, you're obviously here watching it on the Instagram. If you're listening on the podcast, you can do that at Patrick in the World. You can find me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Patrick in the World as well. Check out my other podcast at John Chi Show. I host that with KJ Relke and Nathan Nowak about Korean adoption. You can also hear me on Dear Asian Americans at Dear Asian Americans. That's a podcast that amplifies and celebrates the Asian American community, hosted by Jerry Wan. I produce and edit on that show. Other than that, go to my website, patrickintheworld.me, if you want to see a little bit more, if you want to find all the other places that I've been at, the different podcasts that I've guested on, whatever, if you want to support me, you can do that there as well. And also, if you want to work with me, currently booking speaking gigs through May, at this point. So if you want to talk about different things, I talk about adoption, I talk about how to find your voice, and I also talk about how allies and people outside of different communities can show up and support folks who might feel marginalized in the workplace, in school, and otherwise. So if you're interested in having those conversations, if you're looking for speakers to come in to fill spots in whatever workshops that you're currently building for your school, your organization, your agency, would love to have that conversation. Go to patrickintheworld.me and we can do that. Other than that, I think I've already said this, but that's all I have for today. I want to leave with this message that my friend Cassette Eisenhower, fellow Asian adoptee, has just dropped in the chat here. I'm going to read that out loud for everyone. She's specifically addressing Asian adoptees, but it's okay to mourn and grieve a community you struggle to belong in. Many are grieving a community that we look like and are a part of, but might not have grown up around. And to read what Hannah Lee responded with, your feelings, fears, and grief are valid. 100%. What you're feeling, what you're experiencing right now is valid. And if you need to take that time, you got to take that time. And that's okay. And remember, you're not alone. You have people here who can resonate in that experience at the very least, and at the very most can find ways to listen and to empathize and support you in whatever ways that you need. So until February 1st, I'm Patrick Armstrong. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you soon. Bye.